Today we've got a new 12-inch pen display by VEIKK. It's budget friendly, but does the experience hold up? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. The VEIKK VK1200 is a pen display you draw on. It requires a host computer, a Mac, or a PC. In other words, it's not a standalone. Now I'm John, and I just got done saving the neighbor's pumpkin pie from some grizzly bear. You're welcome. Now when I'm not doing that, I do reviews and tutorials on things used in the creative process. Now remember who you were supposed to be by hitting that sub, hitting the bell, dropping a like and a comment so you won't miss anything. Also, that pumpkin pie, 10 out of 10. The quick unboxing, is this an HDMI? I'm not really sure what this is. How do I not know what this cable is? This never happens to me. A USB-C to USB-A cable, we'll talk about that in a second. This is basically your power and data. Some instructions that I won't read, as well as where to download the driver. A big bag of nibs and a nib remover tool. The bottom of the pen holder where the nibs will go, as well as a nib remover on the bottom of it. The top screws into the base like so, and they included another bag of nibs to go along with the pen holder. Now this model comes with two felt pen holders because it includes two pens. Just slide the pen out of the pen holder and you're ready to go. The pen was a tiny bit loose in the pen holder, but nothing to worry about. It's not going to fall out. And here is your nice piece of kit, along with the microfiber cloth that I forgot to mention earlier, as well as the VEIKK included smudge guard glove, which I was not wearing when I unboxed it. Okay, let's pay some bills. This pen display is 11.6 inches. It is electromagnetic resonance. That is the digitizer. It is battery free and EMR for short. Also the best drawing experience in my opinion. Resolution is 1920 by 1080, that's 1080p. Panel type is an IPS. The report rate is 250 pps, that's basically how fast the pen talks to the digitizer. Gamers use this for a faster response. In theory, this helps with those fast strokes. Color gamut is 72% NTSC, and it has 6 physical shortcut keys which are programmable available. Okay, let's talk about this lamination. Lamination is a bonding process where it minimizes the thickness of the glass, which minimizes a negative effect we refer to as parallax. Parallax is basically the thickness of the glass creates a gap, and that gap creates an offset between the pen tip and where you see the cursor on the screen. Let's see how this display holds up to my parallax test. Overall, pretty good. Now what you're seeing, since I filmed it from a side view, is you're seeing EMR lag where the cursor drags behind the pen. This is normal for EMR displays, and I experience it on every EMR device I've ever tested. And the pen, it's battery free, no charging required. It has 8,192 pen pressure levels, and tilt is supported at about 60 degrees. The pen's lightweight, feels good, it's a matte finish, 2 programmable buttons, no eraser on the back, and the pen tip has very little give. That means when you're pressing it against the glass, you're not going to get a real squishy feel, you're going to get a more pencil-like feel. Now you can see the back of the display, it's a gunmetal gray, it's got 4 rubber grips, so it's easy to use flat. Now setup is easy. The cable I mentioned before has 2 USB-A ports. You can either plug both of them into your laptop or computer, or you could plug one into like an iPhone charger or something like that and plug it into a wall for power. Either way works. The HDMI to mini HDMI cable is for your video, and they're going to slide into the tablet just as we see here. Now if you're sharp, you caught on that these cables are proprietary. I am on record as saying I don't like proprietary cables. However, I'm seeing more and more of these pen display makers use it. Negative is they are proprietary. Positive is they're not slipping out of this thing. You could like totally swing this around, it won't come off. Well, I don't do it. I'm just saying you could do it. God, it just sends a bad message. Now the display didn't come with a stand, but I picked this one up off of Amazon to use on my iPad, and I found it worked really good. So I decided to use it in the video. I'll link it down below if anybody's interested, but this stand has like a million positions. On the right side of the display you will find the power button as well as up and down controls for the brightness. Once you've gone ahead to the VEIKK site and downloaded the driver, the install is pretty quick. You're going to reboot and then that's it, you're set and ready to go. The driver looks pretty basic, but she's got it where it counts. It's got everything you need to set up your pen, mapping, it's got controls for rotation for you left-handed folks, picking your monitor, and it's got a 5-point pen calibration system. In my configuration, I used Windows Ink as I wasn't getting pressure without it. Your mileage may vary. Everything you need to control the color of your display, do any kind of color corrections are here. I found the display pretty accurate out of the box when it came to color. Configuring your hotkeys is pretty easy. At the root of it, you have a modifier button as well as a keyboard combination that you can add to commands. And finally, you do have application-specific profiles, meaning you could have your hotkeys set up one way for Photoshop, and you could have your hotkeys set up for something like Medibank Paint or Clip Studio Paint completely separately. I started my pen test in Sketchbook Pro. It's free and I'm very used to how the pencil works. These first broad strokes lay down pretty good. I get really light lines, the mids are great, and you can see how dark it gets when I press it hard. If you guys follow the channel, you know I do this kind of wavy line to gauge the pressure. If you look at the initial activation to this pen, I get a really light line. My mids are great, that gradient that we're looking for is perfect, and at the end it gets really nice and dark. So I have to admit, never reviewing VEIKK before, I was a little surprised how good these pressure levels were. Now switching to the pen tool, I'm looking for a few things. I'm looking to see if I get a shoelace effect, I'm looking to see any jitter in the lines, and the thin to thick, and then again thick to thin edge of these lines is really good. When I move it to faster strokes, I'm not seeing any kind of shoelace or artifacts or anything different than when I did it slowly. It's not skipping strokes on me, which is really important. And when I zoom in here, you can see there's no artifacts in these lines. There's no smoothing or anything like that running in the background. This is just native Sketchbook Pro. I move to alternating here. What I'm doing is thick to thin, very fast strokes to see if anything's skipping or I'm not getting the stroke that I expect. And I mentioned that EMR lag before, but what's important is the pen keeps up with how fast I'm moving it. In other words, where I expect the pen tip should be, for the most part it is. Full transparency though, I am an EMR fan and user, and I've gotten accustomed to it over the years. Computer, what type of cable is this? What do you know? Of course it's gonna work. This is totally not going to work. Move to the slow diagonal ruler test. There is some wobble here. It's not perfect, but it's acceptable. And you guys know how I feel about these rule tests. I don't think they're a good representation of the drawing experience, but I do them because, you guys pound me in the comments if I don't. Now I use a program called Expressi, just because of the pen icon that the program actually has. You can really see the pen move when you tilt it. I found tilt to work the way it's supposed to. It does have some of that cursor offset when you tilt the pen that we've been seeing in a lot of other pen displays. I'm not really sure what the issue is, if it's just an EMR thing, or it's a hardware thing, or it's a driver thing, but I tend to focus on where the line is as opposed to where the cursor is. However, some of you bring it up in the reviews and the comment section, so I thought I'd mention it here. And that brings us into Clip Studio Paint for some final observations. First of all, the matte film finish on this device does a good job of blocking out the light. You can see I have a ring light pointed directly at it, and it does a fairly good job of filtering out bright light such as sunlight in a bright room. I used a variety of different pencils and pens to really get a feel of the in-use drawing experience, and I can't say I was disappointed. I'm using a pencil set from a guy named Friendon. I'll link him down below if you're interested, but you can see this is a pencil with tilt enabled, but at least for me it wasn't impacting anything I was trying to do. In fact, everything is working pretty much as expected. The hotkeys are responsive, I'm having no issues with it, and I'm not missing strokes or anything like that. Moving over to inks, pretty much the same experience, meaning the things I mentioned before when using the pencil or anything else is consistent here. One of the highlights when using this display is really that taper off at the end of the lines. The best way I could describe it is on most displays I've tested, that initial activation force, it's almost as if the line is ready to finish before your stroke is done, which I think leads to some of the shoelace effects and this and that. What I found with this pen display is the complete opposite. I almost had to be conscious of finishing my stroke because it really registers up until that last second. That might be that PPS I mentioned earlier. All in all, even when I'm trying to do very fine specific rendering, the pen is doing exactly what I wanted to do, and that's really all you could ask for. And that's the punchline. It's great to see a company come out of nowhere like this and deliver a good drawing experience for an affordable price. With the holidays approaching, if you're in the market for a 12-inch, 13-inch type device, you owe it to yourself to give this a look. Is there room for improvement? Always. I'd like to see somebody find a way to resolve this issue with the tilt and the cursor offset, but Until somebody figures it out, it's something we're just going to have to deal with. Fortunately, in this case, I think the pros outweigh the cons, especially when you're talking about the price point. So that's it for me. Thanks for dropping by. While you're here, why don't you check out a couple of my other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.